roofers, and welcome to Roofer Growth Hacks, the podcast that's dedicated to highlighting those in the roofing industry, learning how they overcame growth challenges with creative growth hacks, and connecting them with the others in the roofing industry. I'm your host, Chris Hunter, founder and chief marketing officer of roofingsites.com. I'm also the author of The Ultimate Guide to Digital Marketing for Roofers. Well, I got a little story for you. Diane Gilson is the CEO of Info Plus Accounting, and she assists small to mid-sized construction and manufacturing businesses in establishing job cost accounting systems. She's known for her ability to transform financial chaos into clarity and profitability for her clients. In this episode, we dive deep into what roofing company owners need to know now in their accounting systems to ensure that they will take home more profits down the road. So be sure to listen up as Diane shares some awesome growth hacks. Well, Diane, thank you so much for coming on Roofer Growth Hacks. Really appreciate you coming on and talking about what you're really good at. So with that in mind, why don't you tell us who you are and tell us a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey, your business, who you help, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay. Happy to do that. So my name's Diane Gilson. I am the CEO and founder of a company called Info Plus Accounting. And just a little bit about my background. It's been kind of a roundabout journey. I started out thinking that I wanted to teach. And at the time, really only junior high jobs and elementary jobs were open. And I did my student teaching of 7th and 8th grade, and it didn't take me very long to go, oh my gosh, no, I could never handle this. So ultimately, I do a lot of teaching, but it's adults and people who really want to learn as opposed to kids who are anti-learning. So
Right.
I'm not saying all kids are like that, but the particular school that I did my student teaching in worked that way. So as a result, I got a job as a bookkeeper for an honor society here in Ann Arbor. I'm located in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And even though we work with people all over the country, I'm still, that's our home base. And in the process of doing the bookkeeping for that honor society, we'd have an annual audit. And the outside auditors would come in and audit the books. And I got to talking with them. And I'm saying, what's involved with that? And so I learned about being a CPA. And ultimately, I went on and got enough classes and went to work for that particular CPA firm, earned my CPA, went to work in banking. In banking, I earned my certified internal auditor designation. And then after about 6 years, I moved over into the management accounting part of the bank.
Okay.
And after that, I just went on to start my own business in 1994. A lot of friends said, you got to start your own business. And I went, gosh, that sounds like fun, and I wouldn't mind having a job where I could work 4 days a week. Big laugh on me. Okay. We're talking to other business owners.
Right. Right.
That's a dream. That's kind of a dream that when you start your business, oh gosh, I can have total control over my own hours, etc.
Yeah.
And somebody said, you get to work half days, any 12 hours that you want out of the day. So at any rate, it was kind of funny. You start out with certain ideas about being in business, and then the reality is, and I find that with most of the people that come to me and that I work with, that life is a little different than maybe you envisioned on the front end. But our goal is always to keep working forward in the direction that we want to go. So.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. So who do you help out now? What does your business help with? Yeah.
Yeah, well, primarily we do have a few manufacturing clients, but I work primarily with people in different aspects of construction,
Okay.
whether it's roofing or other contractors, remodelers, custom home builders, even in some cases developers. And we like to help them set up their internal management systems, their
Okay.
accounting systems to give
Mhm.
them the management reports that they need to know more about what's going on inside their company. And one of our specialties is helping people set up things so they can do job costing.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And
Yeah.
a lot of people don't know what job costing is. The whole idea is that you get all of the costs associated with delivering your work to different projects and different jobs assigned to that job as well as the income so that then you can see, gosh, did I make money here? Did I lose money? Did I
Yeah.
just kind of break even and should have stayed home fishing? You know,
Yeah.
whatever,
Right.
wha- whatever the case might be. And yeah, we do offer one-to-one consulting in that area, but I also have a lot of online pre-recorded training classes.
Okay.
And over the years, we've gone ahead and developed a few additional support products. So the real reason to do that is when company owners can see the right numbers
Hmm.
and they can sit down and they can see, well, here's what I plan to have happen on that job.
Yeah.
Here's what actually happens. And there are some differences here. And to be able to go in and figure that out and understand why and where those differences occurred
Hmm.
helps them run their company better, whether it's an operational
Hmm.
standpoint, whether it's the project manager,
Yeah.
there are a lot of different reasons that your final results don't turn out as um, anticipated, but job costing lets you see that.
Mm.
And so it's can be a huge help. And so using that information to improve operations, to improve planning, to improve estimating, to figure out what you should be pricing your
Yeah.
jobs at, and so on. You can't really tell that unless you've got something objective to look at instead of just going, oh, well, everybody else is charging this much for this kind of work, or,
Yeah.
you got to kind of measure against yourself and see what's going on and what you want to do with your company.
Yeah, for sure. So you said that you built software in order to help with this?
No, I haven't built software.
Oh, okay. Maybe I heard wrong. Yeah,
No, that's okay. I have developed support products,
I
but the
see.
software that we use most frequently is QuickBooks
It was
Desktop.
okay.
But QuickBooks Desktop is really designed to do job costing.
Yeah.
It's built to do that. QBO is very popular,
Hmm.
but it's not built in the same way. It's a
Okay.
totally different package. It's got the same
Interesting.
name,
Yeah.
but it's a totally different package. It's web-based.
Yeah.
And most people who want to get job cost information from QBO will need to go out and pick up one of the other plugins and
Okay.
integrate it.
Okay.
So there are a number of apps, plugins that will let you track other things kind of outside of your accounting software.
Okay.
And that's where people are supplementing
Hmm.
QBO because it doesn't have the same innate capabilities across the board. So,
Interesting. So I got to let you know, I failed accounting, right? The first go around. That is not my favorite subject. It took me three times to pass it according to Texas A&M standard in order to get
mhm.
into the upper level classes. All right. So I want to dig in a little bit on the job costing. When people first come to you, what are they doing wrong when it comes to that?
Well, I think the first thing is that they lots of times tell me the same thing that you just did. They
Hmm.
go, "Hey, I'm not an accountant, and I really don't love looking at the numbers, and but I know I need to do it, but I need to understand what it is, and is this something that's going to help us? Is it worth investing the time in to figure it out?" And I always tell people, if you want to be an accountant, you would have gone to school to be an accountant.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so the big thing is to kind of get over that first hurdle of being afraid of the
Yeah.
numbers. And lots of times say, you know what, your numbers, okay, I don't know if you have children or not, but whether you have children or not, if you have your own, your kids are pretty fascinating because
Yeah.
they're yours.
Hmm.
Okay. Other people's kids aren't all that much fun.
Yeah.
You know, you,
Yeah.
you know, you maybe you put up with them at the ball games or whatever, but
Yeah.
the kids you're really interested in are your own, and your numbers are like that. So if you can learn what to look for in
Okay.
your numbers, you don't have to be an accountant if you've got things set up in a nice logical format, which is a trick. Okay, I mean
Right.
you have to know how to do that. But once you get things set up in a way that's logical, then all of a sudden your numbers, because they're yours, will start to make a lot more sense. And I have a lot of people that they bring me their financials and they say, you know what? I can't make higher hair of these. I don't know what this means. And I look at it and I go, yeah, well, I understand that because I can't either. It's just not set up. Okay. Just not set up in the right way to be
Right.
useful or helpful to you. And so lots of times we'll help people get their chart of accounts, which is
Okay.
the chart of accounts is kind of like the foundation if you were building a house.
Okay.
Chart of accounts is the foundation. And then there are all those job codes. What are all those different pieces and parts that go into the
Yeah.
process of the job? And in some companies, there are a lot of pieces and parts. If you're, remodeling or building a home from scratch, there are going to be a lot of them.
Hmm.
In roofing, there will be a reasonable number of
Yeah.
them, not quite as overwhelming, okay,
Yeah.
as if you were building a house from scratch. But it's all about deciding what is it you want to track and see. And so in desktop, we call those items. The cost codes are the items,
Okay.
and those items tie back into the foundation, kind of like the framing.
Okay.
Okay. And so part of what I like to do with people is help them understand that their accounting system is a system.
Yeah.
It's like any other system. If you were building a house or when you go to do a job, you have a system, you have a way that you go about doing things, and
Mhm.
different pieces and parts fit together in a
Yeah.
particular way. And that's why I found a lot of people in construction really are kind of closet accountants once they start
Okay.
understanding their numbers.
Yeah.
And that's really how I got into working with people in construction on the front end. My first two clients were in construction and they
Hmm.
wanted job costing. And I got a chance to sit down and work with them. And I found out that I really like working with these people. I love working with folks who can conceptualize something
Hmm.
and then do it and put it together
Yeah.
and make it happen. So that's how I ended up focusing on the construction industry primarily.
Okay. Love that. So you mentioned chart of accounts and setting it up in a logical format. What is that
Mhm.
logical format for that chart of accounts?
The first underlying thing that most people just shy away from is they hear the balance sheet.
Yeah.
Okay. Balance sheet really is pretty straightforward. There are some subcategories, but if you think about your assets, which is what you own,
Right.
okay, liabilities are what you owe, and the equity section is just kind of, I call it what's left over. So the
Okay.
three O's, what
Okay.
you own, what you owe, what's left over.
Okay.
The profit and loss, when it's organized properly, should show your income from operations,
Okay.
from what you're in business to do,
Hmm.
not your interest, not your snow plowing if you do that on the side or whatever, but your primary source of income would be in the top section. And then the next area would be in QuickBooks, they call it cost of goods sold. It's
Okay.
an old term
Yeah.
that came in with accounting and stayed in the software, but it really means what are your direct costs and in some cases your indirect costs
Hmm.
to get the jobs done.
Okay.
So direct cost would be your labor, your materials,
Hmm.
your contractors, and then all those other costs that come in around the edge, like permits and dumpsters and those types of things.
Yeah.
And then some indirect costs would be, they're not small costs necessarily, but would be equipment.
Mm.
Okay, what's
Hmm.
the cost of your equipment, fuel, uh, shop supplies, all those other kinds of things that are definitely related to your process,
Hmm.
but may not be assignable to a specific job. So they need to get kind of sitting in there, and we call those indirect costs. And when
Okay.
you take those direct costs and the indirect costs
Hmm.
away from the income, then you're left with something called gross profit.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so if you're ever out at a conference or whatever, sometimes people will go, well, what kind of margin are you getting? Which is what they're really talking about is what
Okay.
is your gross profit percentage in relationship to your income. And then, of course, you've got all the other company expenses, okay, which we like to group by business function. So, for instance, we'd like to see all your marketing and sales
Mhm.
costs grouped. So then you can see the grand total
Yeah.
or all of your marketing, your marketing and sales costs, but as well as maybe what are your office administration costs?
Mm.
Okay. What
Yeah.
are your general and administrative costs? I mean, there's several big chunks of costs that you can group and see the totals and see the percentages. And then you get down to what's called operating income.
Okay.
Underneath that, then you get to put some other income or other expenses. Other expenses would be lots of times your taxes, depreciation.
Hmm.
Maybe you've gotten rid of some equipment. You'll
Yeah.
have some gain or loss in there, but those kind of sit down below your operating income because they're not kind of everyday kinds of
Yeah.
things.
Okay. So, all right, I want to drill into a little bit on the gross profit thing because that you like you
Hmm.
said that's a common thing that everyone likes to talk about, right? So,
Right.
what gross profit percentage do you see and what do you typically try to recommend to people as they're trying to scale their business?
Well, that's a tough one because it can depend on a lot of things.
Hmm.
As you're smaller, a smaller business has to generally have a higher gross profit dollar amount to cover all those other company costs that you have in
Hmm.
place, regardless of the size of your company.
Yeah.
And if you're a really large company, you can get away with a lower gross profit margin. Again, it's all proportional.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, I'd like to see anywhere from 25 to 35% gross profit. But again, you have to look at that. It's not the percentage, it's the dollars
Yeah.
that you're working with in
Hmm.
relationship to what are all your other costs.
Okay. And this is gonna be a dumb question, right? Just I'm a marketer, not an accountant, right? So
Mhm.
So on the gross profit, let's say that I don't know, out of each job you're making $5,000, right? Out of a $15,000 job. Okay. If you're at that level or better, is that what you're paying your taxes on?
No, actually, you pay your taxes on what's called the bottom line, which is after um, you've got your income less your cost of goods sold or direct and indirect costs, and then from then there you have to go ahead and subtract all the other costs that are
Okay.
related to running your company, and you pay your taxes on the bottom line. And then,
Mm,
of course, it can depend on what kind of entity you are
yeah,
as to how that
sure.
income flows through. Certain kinds of companies are going to pay taxes. For instance, a C corporation would pay taxes from within the company.
Hmm.
Okay. And an S corporation, keeping it real simple here, an S corporation would pass that income through to the owner to put on their 1040 or their personal tax return
Okay.
um, at the end of the year.
Okay. Interesting. What would you say is the biggest question that you get from contractors as they initially come to you and that you help them out with?
Biggest question. I think it's how do I get started?
Yeah.
And generally speaking, if we're working one to one with them, we need to do a needs assessment.
Hmm.
Okay. So, in the
Hmm.
process of doing the needs assessment, we learn about their company, how long they've been in business, what are their goals, what kinds of measurements are they currently doing, if
Okay.
any. I mean, we'll ask things like, what's your gross profit target?
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know. They
Yeah.
go, well, we just do the best we can. And so we go through that process. We also kind of ask, what's causing you the biggest pain
Hmm.
right now? Where's the thing that you think is one of your biggest problems? And is there a
Yeah.
way that we can help you measure it so that you can do something about it? Um, you go to the doctor,
Hmm.
uh, they're going to run some tests. They're going to they're going
Yeah.
to do a needs assessment,
Yeah.
and before they can prescribe what you need to do. That being said, we still know that we need a good structure. We know that people need training.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
you can't. In so many cases, here's what happens: somebody starts a company, and then they think, well. You're my spouse. I think you ought to just jump in and help out, do this
Yeah.
thing. And well, first of all, you have to make sure that the spouse is willing. Secondly, you need to make sure that spouse is trained. Or lots of times
Hmm.
company owners will figure, oh, well, the office manager, can sit down
Yeah.
and put this information in.
Yeah.
And the problem is when they don't really know what they're doing, um, there are a lot of wrinkles in the
Hmm.
construction industry
Yeah.
as to how things are supposed to be entered and tracked.
Mm.
And so we help discover the biggest problem. And of course, since we're known for job costing, usually that's at the top of their list.
Yeah.
They say, I'm not getting reports that I can understand. I'm
Mm.
not getting reports on different jobs. When I see the numbers, I don't trust them. So that means you're working in the dark.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
For sure.
those are the
And
biggest things people talk about when they first come to us.
okay. And would you say that's their biggest mistake?
Well, I think their biggest mistake is not taking the time early on to understand how those numbers fit together.
Okay.
And I mean, I just gave you a very, big bird's eye view,
Hmm.
but I'd say if people, and I kind of am thinking about recommendations, if people would spend an hour or two a week in the first year that they're in business, um, it's going to have huge benefits and dividends. But in fact, a lot of people don't. They just kind of back burner the numbers
Okay.
and go, oh, I can get this job and I know they're going to pay this much. And I
Yeah.
used to work for somebody and they paid me uh, $20 an hour or $25 an hour. And I can charge somebody, gosh, I can charge somebody $50 an hour and
Hmm.
I'll be taking home an extra 25.
Yeah.
Um, without sitting down and really finding out what are all the other pieces and parts. And so I think it's that stuff that gets backburnered
Hmm. Yeah.
and eventually even things on the back burner will burst into flame if you leave them there long enough. And
Yeah.
so I'd say that's a big thing.
Okay. When you're looking at someone that can actually do what you do, right? When you're trying to find someone that can do what you do, how do you find that person? Or obviously we want them to hire you for sure, but if let's say that they wanted to do someone in, a back end admin person that can actually
Hmm.
do bookkeeping and ensuring all of this accounting stuff is correct, right?
Hmm.
When they hand it to someone like you, what should they look for?
Well, I'm going to back up a little bit. Okay. Um, you really need three things to come together if you're going to have a good accounting system. You've got to
Hmm.
have the right structure, the right
Hmm.
underlying structure.
Okay.
People have to be trained.
Mm.
Okay. And um, I mean, you wouldn't put a carpenter out on the job or a roofer out on the job with absolutely no training. You wouldn't
Right.
just say, hey, hop up on the roof and, tell me what you see and
Hmm.
just do your best. Okay.
Yeah.
So people need to be trained for their safety and for yours. And the third thing is closing, what we call closing procedures, which means going in and proofing, balancing, checking. It's really hard to get all of the right numbers in a transaction. There
Okay.
are a variety of pieces and parts in any given transaction. You've got date, what's the customer, and what job phase is it, what date does it do, et cetera, et cetera. There are a lot of pieces.
Yeah.
So you need to have something at month end in order to make sure that the numbers that you have are accurate and that your books are closed.
Okay.
It's really a pain for a company owner when they get a report and it says last month was this dollar amount Monday, and on Friday now it's a different number, and
Hmm.
next week it's a different number.
Yeah.
So you really need to close those books. So there's three pieces. Now I'm going to back up to how do you find somebody like that? Well, first of all, we don't do any bookkeeping
Okay. Okay.
and we don't do any taxes.
Yeah.
Okay. We just do the training and the coaching guidance and so on how to set the systems up,
Hmm.
how to do month end procedures. We've got a lot of online recorded training and so on. It is tough to find somebody who is well versed in construction, accounting,
Yeah.
much less job costing.
Yeah.
So we normally suggest that if that's what you're looking for, that you train somebody internal.
Okay.
It's very difficult to pass that off to an outside service. It can be done,
Hmm.
okay,
Hmm.
but you've got a lot of incoming information that somebody needs to be saying, oh, this goes to this job, this goes to that job, and oh, this was for this phase of the job. And so that is generally best done by someone internal,
Hmm.
who cares about what they're doing. And so we started out doing bookkeeping for people, and then we found that was the case. We had information from them, but we're going, well, I don't know what job this goes to. And then
Oh,
we'd
yeah.
put a call out to somebody, and it'd take them, it was a pick up, put down,
Hmm.
nagging people for information. So
Yeah.
it's really better to handle it internally. So take
Mm.
somebody who has the right mindset. Maybe they don't already know how to do everything, but if they're willing to learn and they're logical and they kind of like working with numbers. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't want to put somebody there that just absolutely loves marketing and doesn't like to do
Yeah.
anything with numbers.
Right.
Nothing wrong with marketing.
Yeah. Hey,
different different mindsets.
different numbers too, right? We still have numbers, right? They're just
Yeah,
different. Yeah. Hmm.
exactly. And and that's the other thing is I hear a lot of construction people say, I really don't like working with numbers.
Hmm.
And I go, really? You don't measure, you
Right.
don't
Right.
estimate, you
Hmm.
don't, you know, you're working with numbers all the time. And
Yeah.
so these are just a different set.
Hmm.
Okay. So yeah, I really recommend internal, finding the right person and getting them trained, even if they're only spending half of their time
Hmm.
on doing the bookkeeping.
Okay.
But find the right person and get them trained up.
Okay. So different subject here, but looking forward, right? What are some industry trends that you're seeing, and how should roofing company owners take advantage of those?
Okay, well, there are a couple of things that are always true,
Hmm.
regardless of the economy or the political situation or whatever is going on. And that is you just really need to jump in and learn about your numbers and the right way to set them up so that even if you hire somebody, and in most cases, you're going to hire somebody else to handle that for you, but you need to know whether they're doing a good job or not.
Yeah.
Okay. You need to be able to look over their shoulders. Just so even if you came up through the trades before you ran your company, you would need to know as a business owner how to look at the results of work that
Yeah.
somebody else is doing. And so the more you know about it, you don't have to do the accounting, but the more you know about it, then you'll be able to make sure that somebody who's working for you is doing the right type of work and giving you numbers that are logical and make sense. So we have people coming to us typically that are 5 to 10 years into running their company and
Okay.
they go, yep, I just can't figure this out. I don't know why we're not making what we ought to be making.
Hmm.
So my advice would be don't wait that 5 or 10 years.
Okay.
Start off on the right foot and get a good understanding. And if you just invest that little bit of time on the front end, um, it's just going to pay off in
Okay.
spades. I mean, sat down and done calculations with people and said, if you could make an extra $100,000 a year, just
Hmm.
right off the bat, okay, if you could make an extra $100,000 a year just by knowing how to read your numbers and how to do things differently,
Yeah.
and let's see if it took you 40 hours to learn enough to do that, how much are you earning per hour? And
Yeah.
when people sit down and calculate that out. So are you further ahead out on the job site, or maybe you'd be further ahead
Yeah.
learning something? Okay, so keep learning. And then, yeah, just don't back burner the numbers. And, if you're getting started, just knowing those numbers are just going to make a huge, huge difference for you. So, but I don't think I really answered your question in terms of what's going on from the industry side.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, AI is obviously taking over all sorts of places. Is that affecting, or is that what you're about to say? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was going to say, you have to stay in touch with technology, whether
Hmm.
it's AI or what are some of the handy tools,
Hmm.
okay, that you can pick up. Don't don't get, it's kind of a fine line you have to walk, don't get distracted by all the shiny objects, try to narrow in on a few that you can really see good payback,
Yeah.
because it's really easy to
Yeah.
get pulled in different directions. But we're actually going to start doing some AI training here
Okay.
in the near future. The other thing is that your customers are pretty vocal now, much more so than way back in the Wayback Machine.
Yeah.
They're in social media. So, try to treat them right and get them to treat you right by going out and giving you some good reviews.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah,
just
for sure.
keep learning,
Yeah.
get into an industry organization,
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm a firm believer in joining peer groups because you learn a lot faster and you shortcut a lot of things by joining those peer groups. I know that I have in my industry, and there's lots of them that are out there, but I highly, highly recommend that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we accountants have to do that. We
Yeah.
have to get out and about, and I go to conferences,
Mhm.
construction conferences, I go to accounting conferences, and there's so much that's available online, but
Mhm.
yeah, just always be learning.
Yes.
So
Absolutely. Well, Diane, this has been awesome so far. We're going to take a pause here real quick for a brief message from our sponsor, roofingsites.com. Since 2018, roofingsites.com has helped roofers double their sales by getting their marketing right using the 4R roofing marketing system. If you're a roofing company owner wanting to grow your business, be sure to go to roofingsites.com and sign up for a roofing marketing strategy session with me. Okay, and we're back. We are heading into the lightning round. The lightning round is super fun and super quick. All right. That's therefore the
okay,
lightning round, right? The rules for it are simple. You have 1 minute or less to answer each of these questions. You ready, Diane?
sure.
Awesome. Okay. So the first question here is, what is your favorite personal hack? It could be a book, a podcast, whatever. Anything goes here. We're Roofer Growth Hacks.
Well, I'll tell you what, one of my clients suggested this to me, and she says, you got to go listen to this podcast. And it's called The Knowledge Project.
Okay.
And it is so interesting. They're not short podcasts. Generally, they're 45 minutes to an hour, but he pulls in all sorts of people with different kinds of expertise.
Mm,
It's business, it's mindset, it's interpersonal skills, just a wide variety. And I'm always amazed at what they can cover in an hour. It's
yeah.
deep. Okay.
Yeah.
So I love that kind of thing. So if I could be driving and
Mhm.
absorbing something new, I love it. So
Love that. Yeah, absolutely love that. All right, next question. What is your favorite business hack? Again, this could be a book, a podcast, anything goes here.
okay, so The One Thing by Gary Keller, I think, is
Mm,
fantastic. It's so easy for us to get distracted
hmm.
and move and try to go in 8 different directions at once. And when we
Yeah,
do that, we don't go anywhere. We just kind of end up spinning our wheels. So I love the concepts behind The One Thing. And that's always a struggle for me is to stay focused, because as a business owner,
yeah.
there's so many things going on. And then I'm going to also throw another podcast in that's relatively new to me,
Hmm.
uh, but it's called Acquired.
Okay.
And these are longer. A lot of them are 3 to 4 hours,
Wow.
but they go deep into different companies like NVIDIA
Mm,
and Nova Norcross, the ones that do, of course,
yeah,
now it's going to weight loss
yeah,
drug
yeah, yeah.
that's real popular right now. And Microsoft. And they go and they look at big companies, but they go way back into the way back
Okay.
and kind of explore how they got from where they were to where they are. It's
Love
just,
that.
it's fascinating, totally
Yeah,
fascinating.
love that.
So,
Yeah. I mean, that's literally the whole reason that I do Roofer Growth Hacks is to meet people like you and learn things that I don't know about. So this is cool. All right. Okay, next question, Diane. What is the best advice that you've ever been given, and you get bonus points if you tell us how you actually applied it?
okay, this came from my dad. And one time I talked to him about it, and he says, well, I don't remember telling you about that. But my dad was somebody who always had lots of great stories and so on. But his
Hmm.
advice was do that which you fear most first.
Hmm.
Okay. And the way I apply it is that, every time there's something comes up that's new or intimidating, or sometimes it's just something I don't want to do.
Mhm.
I want to procrastinate. I keep that in mind. And the reality is if I can knock that thing off first, everything else is kind of downhill after
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So that's how I've applied it in many circumstances, because we've done a lot of unique and new things here at InfoPlus, and sometimes it meant you just jump off the cliff and do it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. You've got to get out of that comfort zone, right? And
mm,
that's usually when the magic happens is when you're outside of your comfort zone for sure. Yeah.
well, the first time is always the worst it's ever going
Yes,
to be.
absolutely.
So
Right.
you just get better after that.
All right, Diane, how can the Roofer Growth Hacks family get in touch with you and how can we support you and encourage you moving forward?
Oh, well, thank you. I always love encouragement. Um, Well, first of all, I think the biggest, interactivity available is to go out to buildyournumbers.com. That's our website. My company name is InfoPlus Accounting, but our website is
Mhm.
buildyournumbers.com. Okay. And if you go out there, you're going to find a huge number of free articles that I've written, a variety of resources, recorded webinars, tools, etc. And then you can also sign up for our newsletter, and we send out regular, not, we don't besiege you, okay, but we try to get something out about once a week,
Mhm.
maybe once every 2 weeks, just depends, so that it guides you into some of our kind of easy read blog articles, and keeps you in the loop about any upcoming webinars or events that we're having. So that would be kind of our give back. And of course, when you get out there, you'll find a lot of our tools and different things that we have available if you're interested in services or training.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Diane, for coming on and sharing all of these knowledge bombs. I want to call them knowledge bombs because, getting your chart of accounts right and getting the right gross profit margins and all that, a lot of that is really hard stuff. So, at least for me, it is. Thank you so much
Well,
for
we
coming
try
on.
to explain it simply, and there are even tools to do that. You can get some free downloads to calculate things for you and to illustrate what some of those things are too. So,
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
okay. Loved being here. Thanks so much for asking me.
Well, how about that, roofers? Was that amazing or what? I know that Diane shared some valuable hacks there. I have a whole page full of notes here. Okay. So, the first biggest takeaway that I have out of all of that we talked about was to take the time, whether you're a new company owner or you've been in business 5 to 10 years, take the time now, right? If your structure of your accounting system is not set properly to where you know exactly what every job costs and that you actually feel confident and know your numbers, then take the time right now. And she said 1 to 2 hours a week will do it. Okay. 1 to 2 hours every single week working on building this system to ensure that you're going to be successful in the future. Okay. She said you got to know those numbers. Number two, she said your job costing, you've got to know your gross profit margins. Okay. She says, a lot of stuff goes into that, obviously, but know that you should be somewhere in the range. She gave a number of 25 to 35%. I've heard a lot higher than that. I've heard 50 to 60%, right? But it depends on what kind of a job it is and all that those kinds of things. But either way, know what's industry standard and know if your gross profit margins are where they need to be. Well, that's going to do it for another episode of Roofer Growth Hacks. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that you connect with Diane on all of her social media and go to her website at buildyournumbers.com. I also hope that you connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram, or you can go to our website and check it out at roofingsites.com. And while you're there, you can listen to other previous episodes. I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsor, roofingsites.com. Since 2018, roofingsites.com has helped roofers double their sales by getting their marketing right using the 4R marketing system. If you are a roofing company owner wanting to grow your business, be sure to go to roofingsites.com and sign up for a roofing marketing strategy session with me. Also, this last year, I published my book, The Ultimate Guide to Digital Marketing for Roofers. If you're a roofing company owner and don't have this book in your hand, I'll send it to you for free. Just go to go.roofingsites.com and I'll send you a free digital copy of my book. Well, roofers, join me next time when we connect with another great roofing entrepreneur and learn how they hack their growth. Until then, I'm Chris Hunter. Thanks and gig 'em.